Hello, my name is Rashira Johnson, and I am going to tweet talking to you today about racialized bodies and mainly the impacts the way oneself or others are seen based on outlining factors that are placed in characterized boxes that interferes with substances such as culture, education, class, just to name a few, in respects to race. I want to talk to you on a matter that I have noticed that many blacks or people of color that are in need of governmental assistance have been experiencing and or are being put down for doing so. Now, there's a different categories and a couple of pointers I'm going to touch on in respects to the racialized body. Um, my question is, why is it that people automatically assume that you are poor, broke, uneducated, or are playing the governmental system if you are in need of welfare assistance? Um, I thought many of the concepts that were highlighted in the article that I read called Reproducing Race and Ethnography of Pregnancy as a Site of Racialization, by Kyra Bridges. The article discusses situations concerning what they are considered to be a welfare queen or someone that is considered to be a welfare queen. Mainly black women that need assistance from the government, but only use it to play the system. And then in the article, it goes on to talk about the different black women that we're seeing coming into the facilities. The nurses and doctors will judge them off of experiences they may have seen or heard from other situations concerning a black person or a black woman, should I say, case, and they judge them off the same experience. So they will say, hey, why are they coming in here with expensive bags or clothing and they can barely afford the things they need? I can barely afford the lint in my pocket, but here they are with an expensive bag. Or they have multiple baby fathers that are in the need of assistance. Well, they have multiple baby fathers that utilize the system in order to gain on their end. What if that bag or clothing, per se, that was brought from by somebody else? What if somebody gifted it to them? What if they had it for a long time? Or what if they actually worked for it? Because not everybody that's on governmental systems is completely dirt poor. Some of them get to use money. Some of them get money. Some of them get food. Some of them get all kinds of things. Sometimes you get a little assistance, the whole assistance, even or you're not dead broke. So why can't they buy it on their own? Is what I want to know. Also, not everyone that needs governmental assistance, such as food stamps, housing assistance, medical assistance, is poor, like I just stated. Did you ever think that a life-changing event could have taken place in someone's life for them to need governmental assistance? With that, one example that may reflect upon many is losing a job. I don't know if you ever lost a job, but I lost a job before, and it was crazy. Especially if you have a family, is a lot to deal with, and if you need help, where you turn to. Okay, so have you ever worked your butt off trying to make ends meet, like I do? The taxes and additional fees and that come out of your check are ridiculous. After you paid your major bills such as rent, utilities, car insurance, and so on, or any other bills you may have that may be paid up or behind. It could be a lot on you of the household. Basically, after you take care of all the adult responsibilities, then you stop to notice your bank account is empty. We all experienced those zeros before. I don't know anyone around me that have not. I mean, maybe if you're well established and you have a lot of money, yeah, but people that are living on check to check, you're trying to make it, you're trying to survive, you're trying to stay afloat. And at the same time, it's like, how do you do that? And then you realize you still had to eat for another week or two. You don't get paid again for another 2 weeks. Talk about potential stomach pains in the making if you don't figure out something soon. So where do you go from there? A light bulb goes off in your head. You say, hey, you're told that you could possibly utilize governmental assistance at this point. After all, most of us pay for it, or you know somebody that pays for it or, and sometimes we have to take ourselves out of our great lives or our shoes and place ourselves in people's shoes that aren't so fortunate or don't have it at that moment or times or whatever. I've been down this road before. I needed governmental assistance. I'm not ashamed to say, because I feel like it shouldn't be a shameful thing. The governmental system was not created to harm anyone. It was created to help people. It wasn't created to make you feel sad or like you're just you using the money and ripping people off. It was created for people that was in need, people that could not afford at that moment, or people that have lost everything and they needed food, they needed clothing, they needed shelter, they needed assistance, medical, whatever it may be. It was created for that. It wasn't created for, what some people do on it is bad, I agree, but it wasn't created to make you feel like you're less than others. And again, I had to go through it. I absolutely hated the process of me going through it because I felt like they put you down a lot when you were doing it. And then people gave me dirty looks like, what is she doing here? She has her husband. She has 3 kids. We both were experiencing a loss at the job at the time. The economy was really terrible, and we needed assistance. And I felt like because I was black, because I was married, because I had 3 children, they looked at us like, what are you guys doing here? Or here goes another black couple on this system. I felt bad, and I don't understand why you should feel bad about that, but I felt really bad, and I felt as though many others experiences the same thing. Despite the fact that I never used it before in my life until that time frame. And then I had a governmental job as well. And I worked and I paid in 2 of those programs, and I never thought twice about it. Talk about being racialized in society that claims to be fair. At that point, I felt like I was being racialized in the body of a black woman, of a family, of a mother, of children. At that point, to society look down, and it's not right. The next point I thought was fair to discuss was racialized bodies being associated with materials such as dolls, clothing, advertisement, and the media. What I mean by that is is when people think an entire culture is perceived only one way, instead of looking at them on a more broad spectrum. For instance, if someone seen an African American doll, or white, or whatever culture you're from, but in this example I'm using, you seen an African American doll that was colored extremely dark or black, shall I say, many would assume that everyone that was of that culture looked the same way as the doll. I've been to stores where, I've seen different color culture dolls, and instantly for me, I assume, oh, maybe they look like that, because you only see what is put out to you, you don't understand what is put out to you, and then you start to socialize with it. But you got to come back and say, hey, that's not realistic, or if it is realistic, is that true? Again, for instance, if you see the extremely colored doll baby, you begin to associate it with that one, and see if it looks the same way. Wrong. We come in all different shapes and sizes and colors and different educational backgrounds and outlooks on life to be judged all the same way. I feel like it shouldn't be one, okay, this is how it looks, this is how it should be, and this is what it is, period. That's not the truth, because at that point, again, you're racializing the body by saying, hey, this is what it should be like, or this is what it's perceived as, and that may not be the truth. I watched an episode on a show called Blackish. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it's a really interesting show. I really enjoyed it, watching it myself. And I watched it with my children, and I thought it was pretty funny, watching it. And it was this one particular episode, okay? So here's it go. During the episode, a black woman took her daughter to a toy store to buy a Barbie doll. We love Barbie dolls. I love Barbie dolls. My children love Barbie dolls, and so on. Instantly, the sales rep asked her what she wanted for her daughter, and she said, a Barbie doll. Great. The woman asked, great, and the woman said, great, and started to show her different dolls. They were all white, well dressed, and had multiple accessories, beautiful accessories, and they were all alluded to be well educated. The black woman asked if they had Barbie dolls that reflected more on their culture or per se their color. Mind you, the woman and her daughter dressed normally and had their hair up in a ponytail, a natural ponytail, so anybody would. The saleswoman goes on and says, oh, why didn't you say so? And begins to laugh. She then shows them to a section with the colored dolls, and there were only 2 options. Both were dark-skinned dolls, and they both wore slave clothing, and read that they were uneducated and finally was free from being a slave. Wow. That had minimal accessories, and it looked as if they were old rag dolls. Mind you, they're in the same stores as the other dolls, white dolls, and they're completely opposite. And this is supposed to be modern times, and this is what they had on the shelf. Now, even though it was a show that placed things in perspective, talk about a body being racialized, again, in reference to the actual mother and daughter compared to the dolls. It's crazy. The mainstream society, even though on a show that discusses realistic events, reflects on how others view the black culture, although everyone may not feel the same way. So even though everyone don't feel the same way, I feel like at the same time, many people do still view based on what they see or what they're used to. You know, they so used to seeing on the screen a black face that's constantly on the news for doing something bad, they associate everyone with that concept. Or if you've seen a white person per se with constant robberies, someone might be afraid to say, hey, I'm going to make sure I watch out for them because they may rob us. You know, I'm not saying, but I'm just saying this could be what you associate yourself with. Yet there are also people that racialize bodies based off what we expect from them to act like or look like. For instance, I'm sorry. Okay, yeah, I'm sorry. Even when we go to racialized bodies with Black Lives Matter, that's another concept I'm going to talk to you about, but let me come back a little bit. I'm sorry. For instance, it may be acceptable for a light complexion person to color their hair red or blonde or orange, not think too much of it. And however, if someone of a darker complexion may be seen as a freak or something's wrong with them, for them to wear their hair that color because it doesn't match their complexion. It also conforms to ways that others speak and present themselves. I've been told that I talk proper compared to my fellow black culture, which I'm not quite sure what that means, but I was completely confused and a bit offended by it. I asked for elaboration, and the person explained that I didn't speak broken language or too much slang that would determine if I was illiterate or not. Illiterate. Yeah, no, that's not fair to say. And I then began to analyze people of my culture to see if it was a proper way they should talk. It is true that people talk slang, but a lot of cultures talk slang too, so there's not really a proper and improper way to speak. I mean, if you want to talk English and be an English professor, yes. But if I'm just talking to you in regular conversation, you shouldn't tell me that my language is broken. Just my thoughts. It was true that black people talk slang, but many other cultures do as well. They don't justify calling them stupid or uneducated because they talk that way. I've been around people that are extremely smart but aren't able to utilize their resources as much as they want to because there are underlying factors that contribute to it, such as health, them caring for another, such as a family member or their own child, limited vehicle access. Which kind of what I'm referencing to there for is like, for instance, say if someone wants to go to college and they're of color, and they do have broken dialect, doesn't necessarily mean they're uneducated. Maybe they wasn't able to go to the greatest school when they were growing up, or maybe they have family members that do speak this way. That doesn't mean that they are not able to fit into society because they talk that way. Even if we go on a racialized bodies with the Black Lives Matter movement, many that have lived through it or knew someone of it completely understands. However, there are people that won't understand it if they never been through it or know someone that been upon it or the topic of it. For instance, I completely can relate to the Black Lives Matter movement because I experienced it when I was 19. 19 years old. I'm 28 now. We'll be turning 28. And I experienced it with me and my husband were driving one night, going to drop our friend off. And we were married at the time still. We were young, we got married, and I had a hood on my head and I had like a scarf on my head, and from the back, if you're driving, I look like two males in the car. They pull us over. They proceeded to pull us over. My husband rolls down his window and he goes, what are you doing out this late? It's like 12:30 at this point. And he's like, I'm just got done dropping my friend off. It was two white officers that approached us. And he goes, I need to search your vehicle. And we didn't understand the laws at the time. So we let him search it. And it was weird. He put the light in our face. And he goes, he's searching the vehicle, comes back to the front and said, what are you two doing in a car like this? And at the time it was a Chevy Impala. It was a nice car. And he goes, well, I work for, my husband goes, well, I work for it. I'm working, I'm married, have kids, and he goes, okay, well, just get in. We just had a mistake, and, we thought this car was somebody else. We got reports of a stolen car, and we thought this could have been it, and at that point, I felt like, why is this happening? And what made them pull us over for no reason? See, they thought they were going to catch somebody doing something bad at 12 o'clock at night, and that was black. And it was just messed up to feel scared at that point. Like, what's going to happen? What if I said this? Or what if I moved this way? Unless you experience it personally, you would never understand. And there I was, being a racialized body at this point. Thank you for the talk.